So we're just going to start off by providing an overview of your company and your main responsibilities. So let's have David kick us off with that response.
Wonderful. Thank you, Julie. And thank you, Anna, for putting this great event together. I think the more we talk about technology and innovation and the careers, it's a healthy conversation. It's an evolving conversation. It's one that I get excited about. As managing partner of Vaco, I get the pleasure of leading 40 people here locally that deliver customer various talent solutions. But Vaco as a whole, it has 45 locations around the country. We're about a $1.5 billion organization, as well as we have multiple international locations. Our services very much locally are in talent consulting, management consulting, but we also are now in the process of bringing in some of our global capabilities for product development, engineering, as well as managed services for key skill sets across the country. So these things are very much near and dear to our company and what we do, and I'm certainly excited about being part of this.
Wonderful, thank you. Elizabeth.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's nice to be with y'all. My name is Elizabeth Watson, as Julie shared. I am the recruiter here at Forcura. So I am lucky enough to work with job seekers, job candidates, and team members here at our company. We are a Jacksonville born and bred software company, as Julie mentioned, delivering a suite of I'm biased, but fantastic solutions to our clients who are all in the healthcare industry. We are a mission-driven organization. We are absolutely devoted to empowering better patient care in partnership with our clients and our customers, and giving them valuable time back to spend, with their patients rather than dealing with all the administrivia that comes with healthcare these days. Forcura is a 120-person organization with most of our team members here in Jacksonville and surrounding areas, although over the last couple of years, we have stepped out and invited some team members to join remotely, which has been exciting. It's a different change for Forcura, so it's been exciting. Yeah, I think that's it for me.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Elizabeth.
Sure.
And Jeff, let's hear from you.
Thanks. Good morning, and thank you very much for having me. So SS&C is a global provider of technology solutions and services, primarily for healthcare and financial sectors. SS&C came to Jacksonville by way of acquiring another company called Advent Software back in 2015. And Advent came to Jacksonville by acquiring another company called Black Diamond back in 2011. So Black Diamond was born and bred in Jacksonville years ago and has turned into just a large product and part of a larger company. Since the acquisition in 2015, SS&C has grown our presence here in Jacksonville to about 550 people. All different kinds of roles: engineering, service, operations, sales, accounting. A lot of people relocated to the area to continue working here, and it's just been great. My role specifically is a director of infrastructure for the Black Diamond product group, and I focus on the software side of infrastructure. So my teams are responsible for large database environments, our application hosting environments, all of our build and deployment automation, providing tools that let our software engineers kind of thrive and do their jobs, and also kind of supporting the release and ongoing maintenance of the platform.
Wonderful. And I love what I'm hearing from each of you about how you've been able to really grow and develop right here in the region. And that's the message we want to get to our talent pipeline as well. Just as companies flourish here, so can you with your career pathway. And so the information you're going to be sharing with us today will allow us to spread that message to those thinking about these careers. So thank you all. So let's go to our next question. So how do most people even get into this field? What are some common entry-level jobs for those thinking they'd like to break into the IT space? And to kick us off with a response is Elizabeth.
I love this question. I think that this is an overgeneralization for sure, but I think the main reason someone would pursue a career in Forcura's case at a software company is one of two reasons. Either they have a set of technical skills that would help them or would enable them to build or support our software, or they have a a more customer focus in mind, and they want to either support the customers directly or with other skills, like my colleagues on the people team. Our customers are our team members. So that's an overgeneralization, but that's really the two main reasons why I'd see you wanting to join a software company. For entry-level positions, we are fortunate enough here at Forcura to welcome people that are just beginning their career or restarting their career at the entry level. There are entry-level opportunities on our support team, which is, like the front line, the people that our clients know the best and speak to the most often. There are entry-level positions on supporting services, like on our, finance and accounting team. Folks can join as a business analyst, as a network administrator at the entry level. So there's tons of opportunities, even on our sales team, there's entry-level opportunities there. So there's tons of opportunities to kind of get in, I won't say on the ground floor, but, so to speak, and really identify what your passions are and what kind of team player you are and how you want to contribute to, contribute to a business as you really grow your career. So I think those are kind of the main two reasons. I wonder if my colleagues would agree with me.
Well, we're going to have a chance to hear that, Elizabeth, because Jeff is next and he's going to address the question as well.
Sure. Similar to Forcura, we have a lot of entry-level positions on the business side, on the product side, on the service side. So people that are interested in working for a software company and have more of a financial slant and are interested in how we are servicing our clients. We have a lot of lateral movement within our company. You get in the door helping clients, and then the next thing you know, a couple of years later, you can be a QA engineer, you can be a product manager, you can be a developer. I think more generally speaking, a lot of people get into tech and IT because they're curious, they're tinkerers. I certainly was one. I remember, when I was 12 years old and I learned that I could plug a computer into a phone line and talk to somebody on the other side of the world, that was pretty much it for me. And I'm here today because of that. And I wanted to know how that was possible. And I spent my next 10 years going to school and trying to figure out everything I possibly could about understanding how all that stuff worked. For entry level technical side, you'll see a lot of desktop support, technical kind of support roles where you're responsible for helping people figure out why their main tool that they use to do their job, which is their personal computer, something's not working. And you learn a lot about how computers work by helping people figure out why their computer isn't working, right? And that just opens up so many doors for specialization down the road, because once you go from one computer to a network of computers to the internet to servers and all kinds of specialized technologies that build whole platforms like ours or Forcura, it's all bets are off at that point. You can do pretty much anything you want once you understand the fundamentals. And then there's more of like a software engineering focus too. If you're more interested in writing code, there's entry-level software engineering roles as well, where maybe you go to a boot camp or you go to school and you can, a college graduate can get an entry-level job writing code, and you can kind of go that angle as well.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Jeff. David, what are you seeing at Vaco?
Yeah, and a couple of things that I would add to both what Elizabeth and Jeff have said, and I think it goes to a little bit about the supply that we have, or limited supply that we have of resources. Is traditionally people would choose to get into technology because of their own personal interest, and they would tend to, at a very young age, get inspired by something technology related, and that kind of became their driver or their reason, to pursue that career. But I think it also has created a little bit of a challenge for us, because I think a lot of probably the youth and especially within the education world in the last 10 or 15 years had not naturally been exposed through the education world to some of that technology. So the onus was really put on the individual to show some passion, interest, or excitement. And as a result, they would choose a traditional route into a university, get a degree in a computer science field or information sciences or something along those lines. And then they would end up in an entry-level role in an organization where they could career path, up. I think if you look at that now and say, well, where do we go from here? Some of the challenges are we have not had enough young professionals come into the field because not as many were choosing that traditional educational route to get there. So we're trying to figure out, as a community now, how do we solve that problem? And some of it is through probably what I would say less traditional, through the boot camps and certification programs and such. But I think also trying to reach back a little bit and say, how do we create opportunities for our future technology workers so that they may, even though they may not understand technology as a career today, they're masters of all these devices. They're masters of their tablets and their phones and apps and such. And that's the world that we'll be dealing with going forward. So they have the user capabilities to be the power user and the master. It's just the technology, but it's just a matter of, we have to do a job as a community to connect in how those can be used in a meaningful career path down the road, because traditionally the entry-level jobs have come as a junior developer or a help desk person or a junior network administrator, things like that. And I think as we go forward, we'll see more hybrid roles because these worlds are starting to collide a little bit. The business now is very much tied into analytics and data and such, and you're even seeing it at the university level where the curriculum is starting to kind of overlap some too, that the business programs are putting technology into it and vice versa. So I think a lot of that is changing. It's for the good because we all need to create a healthier talent pipeline.
Excellent. That's great perspectives that you all are offering up. And actually, Jeff had mentioned something about kind of a career pathway with, quality, like an engineering role, and that, you could get an entry level and maybe in a couple of years you could move on to another particular job. In thinking about that, students are really curious to know, what does it take to move forward, to advance, or even what does a lateral move look like? So Jeff had mentioned an example, but Elizabeth and David, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm happy to go first, David. I think that growth is really important to, I think, the workforce in general. We want to be growing our skills. We want to be growing, we want to be growing even our earning potential, maybe even moving into being a leader within an organization and not just an individual contributor. So I was joking with Julie, I talk about growth on every interview I am on, all day, every day. Like people want to grow, which I think is exciting. Mm-hmm. I'm biased, but Forcura is a fantastic environment for growth. We are a small software company, about 120 people. So, our needs change as a business, sometimes even quarterly. And so there might be a job in the next quarter that wasn't even available previously because of a client need or an industry change. So there's growth potential in that aspect. I think the best, this is me putting my people team hat on, the best way to pursue growth in a new position or in an existing organization is to have a good attitude, show your hunger, voice what you want to do. If you are, Jeff pointed out, if you're currently a entry-level software engineer, but you want to move over to the product side, or if you're on the customer support team and you're interested in QA, speak up. I really want to learn about QA, that's the first step, in my opinion. Be a hard worker, be a team player, show interest in, your colleagues, and show interest in the business. And you can really write, within reason, you can write your own story, at Forcura for sure. And I know that's the case at other businesses. I think that's where those soft skills and having the vulnerability to voice that you have a new career path in mind is crucial.
Okay, that's great advice for our educators on the line to share with their students. It just sounds to me like, being an advocate for your own career.
Absolutely.
Maybe not waiting to be approached by somebody else that's on your team or your management team, but to advocate for oneself when you see that career pathway. So David, what are your thoughts on that, to kind of follow up with what Elizabeth was saying?
Yeah, and I think if you take what Elizabeth and Jeff both said and look at the optics of kind of how do young individuals, think about their career going forward. I mean, many times they are in a certain career path, and I think a lot of companies have adopted this, traditional career development approach where you went from here to here to here. The reality is that conflicts a lot of times with the new talent acquisition strategy as we add resources to help us solve problems, because and Jeff probably experiences this more than, or as much as anyone, as these technologies start to overlap, the natural skill set, it really isn't being developed today. So someone comes in and knows cloud and knows data and knows, the languages to build out dashboards and such. It's not as natural. So you really have to start thinking about, could you take a really strong performer that understands your industry, your culture, your company? Is it easier to teach them some of the base technical skills and ramp them up, and think of maybe your career development as more of a career lattice? I mean, how can you move sideways up and continue to grow and help? But it's probably more likely you could find a really, really smart, capable person who wants to acquire those additional skills within your own organization and move into a place where they could impact the organization much sooner. And I would contend they would add value sooner than a junior technical person who knows nothing about your industry, your culture, and your organization. So that I think the thought of upskilling will become a more healthy conversation going forward, because we need to invest in those people who have been loyal to our companies, that have the culture and believe in the DNA of our organizations, and they want to grow. So as a company, we have to reach out and say, hey, we're going to invest in you too, because it's good for all of us.
Right. Fantastic. Thank you so much for that perspective. And it does connect with what Brian was saying earlier, this idea of having training dollars to upskill or reskill the existing talent pipeline as well. So that's always an opportunity for students who are entering into a new career field. Perhaps they'll be able to, take advantage of some of those services as well. So let's move on to our next question. Will your company hire high school graduates? We know we have folks on the line who are looking at some students that don't have necessarily a particular post-secondary plan. They want to enter the workforce rather than pursue additional skills in the educational arena. So we're curious to know what kind of opportunities exist for those high school graduates. So if you could share those, give us a couple of examples, that would be really helpful for those on the call. And to kick us off, Jeff.
Thanks. So unlikely that a recent graduate will have be able to come in and make an impact at our organization right off the bat. I mean, the reality is that we are building a lot of complicated products, and experience is key. That doesn't mean we don't have people on our team that don't have a college, that only have a high school diploma, but they have lots of experience, right? So figuring out a way to get yourself in the door, whether it's through certification or a boot camp, or developing a relationship with a staffing agency locally that might know the kinds of firms that take a chance on entry-level people is key. We do have a robust internship program. It's more tailored towards current college students that are focused more on software engineering as opposed to IT or help desk or network. But that's pretty much it for us.
Okay, great. And we've heard excellent examples of those interns that have turned their internship into permanent full-time employment, which is amazing. And we're always trying to promote that with our earn up work as well. David, let's hear from you.
So I would answer with a couple of things. For a lot of our clients that we work with in our traditional staffing business, they will hire high school grads, but less likely in a technology role today. Fast forward, 5 or 10 years, I think a lot of the work that we're doing to incorporate coding and robotics and such into the school systems and even some of these like academy type structures we have in place. I don't think it's unrealistic to think 5 years down the road that we could see people coming out of high school moving into some of these tech roles in cybersecurity or data sciences with a career path leading them. But today it's less likely. But we do have a piece of our business where it's probably where consulting and staffing comes together in our managed services group, where we do have some key contractual agreements with large global companies where we're building a talent engine for them. So we're actually identifying people that have the ability to grow and provide a certain capability to the customer. And we've embedded different levels of talent and leadership within that organization. So we can take some very junior people that may not be experts in that space, but we can actually grow them or upskill them within our managed service relationship so that they can move up and potentially acquire some of those skills. So it's within pockets today for us, but I think as we go down the road 3, 4, 5 years, we'll see it more and more common that these young professionals will be able to come out of high school through their learnings and even some of the internships they are getting at the high school level, and be able to step into some organizations potentially like Forcura and SS&C and participate in a technology capacity.
That's fantastic. Things will continue to change and evolve in this industry, and the opportunities will as well. And again, we're hearing that word upskill. So that's definitely something that I think should give our students hope and interest, is knowing that, you know, when you enter an occupation, there's going to be that lattice, that career lattice. There's just so many opportunities. Just keep yourself open to it, advocate for your own career pathway. So Elizabeth, let's hear from you about Forcura's opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I think the short answer to will Forcura hire a high school graduate, I think the short answer is yes. I agree with Jeff. It's not going to be likely on any one of our technical teams. I would say that when our hiring managers are looking at software engineers or DevOps engineers or folks of that skill to join the company, they're not necessarily looking for a degree, but the work experience is more important there. So I'm with you, Jeff. I think a recent high school grad would be unlikely to join one of our technical teams unless it is through an internship program. And we've had tremendous success with our interns turning into full-time employees at the associate level, and having a really good career path ahead of them, and get the opportunity to actually make a difference and make some changes on our application. I remember we had a software engineering intern a couple years ago who picked up a ticket that was a low priority ticket for one of our more senior developers, and like our whole training team gave him a big high five because it was something they had been waiting for, and it just hadn't bubbled up to the top of the list. So he was making a change on our software application that was used by everyone that used it, which is just it's cool to see. It's cool to see people make an impact. Depending on the position, a high school degree with some work experience is appropriate also for full-time opportunities. We have folks that are on our finance and accounting team that have high school or associate's degrees and do a great job and contribute significantly to the company. Finally, I already mentioned it, but on our customer support team, we have a few folks who are high school graduates. They might be pursuing a college degree or pursuing their associate's degree, and that's a really good team to do it. We support our clients all hours of the day and all days of the week, so it's a nice flexible environment to maybe go to class Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then kind of work your work schedule around it. So yeah, short answer yes, but we would want to dig in a little deeper.
All right, well, those are some great examples, and I love the fact that there's flexibility that allows for some additional upskilling opportunities as well. So that's great.
And Julie, if I could, I just wanted to add one more thing to that, kind of
Yes,
piggybacking
please.
off of what David said. I think as we see the high school curriculum kind of catch up, STEM is STEM is everywhere now. And I mean, my kids are in elementary school and they're doing STEM, and I would expect years from now that in high school, you're going to be doing more than learning how to use Excel and Microsoft Office. Like you'll learn networking or programming. So as that evolves, which I assume it will, things will change. So the future's bright.
That's great. Thank you so much. So let's move on to our next question. So we have kind of skirted around this already. What skills, abilities, and personal attributes are essential to success in this field? We had already mentioned soft skills or employability skills. It doesn't matter how talented you are in this space if you can't show up for work. So let's hear from our panelists on the skills that are really essential to success. And to kick us off, Jeff.
Yeah, sure. I think, I had a note about communication, and soft skills are huge. I mean, you're always going to be working with other people, whether they're internal customers, external customers, collaborators, other teams. You've got to be able to communicate and communicate effectively. Analytical skills, essential for troubleshooting. A lot of times you're going to be looking at very cryptic looking information, and being able to decipher it and figure out what the next move is to try to solve a problem is pretty important. I think fundamentally though, you should really focus on being an expert on using a computer. Like you've got to know the ins and outs of your operating system. What is a file? What is a directory? How do you copy and paste? What are the keyboard shortcuts? How can I maximize my productivity using this tool that is like I said, my main tool to do my job? If you can't use your tool correctly, then you're going to have trouble doing your job. So I think that that's a really big one, is just fundamentals of computing. And just having, like I said, being curious and having a desire to really pursue an understanding about how all these things work and connect and talk to each other is key.
Excellent. So true. Thank you, Jeff. Elizabeth, what are your thoughts?
Jeff, you hit the nail on the head. I think the first thing that really popped into my mind when I reviewed these questions was being curious, wondering why things happen the way they do, whether that's, from a technical perspective or whether it's, digging into the industry that we serve, in our case, the healthcare industry, like, why is this like this, or where does this funding come from, and what does that have to do with why we can, program something a certain way? I think that, we of course work with patient information. So, being interested and curious about data security is of a crucial importance. And I would just say we're a few years behind SS&C in terms of our company growth. But being flexible, understanding that in a software company of our size, and frankly, in technology period, there will be change, embracing that change, when a new version of, .NET comes down the pike, being the first to jump on a YouTube video and watching what the heck is even different about it, So I would say just embracing flexibility, embracing change, and just willing to roll with the punches, I think is crucial, in addition to all the hard skills, obviously.
Exactly. Thanks so much, Elizabeth. David.
Yeah, and I would say one thing to think about is how all of our customer expectations have changed in the last 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
The reality is this move to remote hybrid has only heightened or amplified their desire to have access to everything, all the time, in a secure way and an accurate way. And really it's accelerated the movement to this being a software driven world in every customer experience. And then you take that and say, well, how do we support that? Well, in the meantime, we've decided we're going to go to this remote hybrid work model. Everyone's going to work out of their house. So you talk about the things that Elizabeth and Jeff mentioned as far as communication. The thing I would add to that is really discipline. How do you as a person be disciplined enough to make sure that you can prioritize the right things and realize, what is touching the customer, what is impacting my organization, and how do I make sure I deliver results in those particular areas, because you don't want to impact your customer. But the other part is being resourceful. We keep hearing the term too, like the two terms that use a lot, upskilling and lifetime learners, are kind of two things that we hear a lot. But I think in the workplace, being resourceful and trying to solve problems and understand how things work, instead of just opening up a ticket on Zendesk or whatever product you're using, is really saying, I'm going to take ownership of this problem and understand this problem and understand the implications of it, use all the resources I can, because I can't walk down the hall anymore in many cases and talk to the other 8 people that have been with my organization for 20 years. So, we've created a lot of natural communication challenges because of the way that our workforce has really become this distributed workforce. And in many cases, I would contend most of our employees now are even working with companies that don't even reside in the same city or state that they're in, if you look at really the global footprint of where people are working. So when you put all that together, we've gotten really complicated fast.
You're also correct. And I love what you're saying, because it reinforces some of the data that we can pull up. We use Jobs EQ. And if we look at job postings in the last 12 months in our region, and we isolate the soft skills or employability skills that are needed, the things you're saying are on that list, particularly with the adapting to uncertain environments or changing environments. And again, this speaks to this remote or hybrid workforce quite a bit. So having that discipline and that ability to continue to be very productive in those circumstances is absolutely essential. So thank you all for sharing your insights on that question.